Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the We Are Marshall podcast. My name is Stephen Marshall, and here I have my great friend, Bill McIntyre. We Are Marshall. Hit like, share, and subscribe to this podcast so we can continue to grow it and supply you with much more content. We do have a large sponsor out there. It's called MateConnector.com. It's a large dating site with an inexpensive price for all the features of the big players. So go sign up, give it a try, and see what it has in store for yourself. The first thing that we're going to have a little conversation about today is something that's all over the news, my friends, and that's Trump and this fantastic CNN town hall. Wow, was this thing worthy of some fanfare from all directions, okay? We had stuff that the Democrats hated and liked, and the Republicans hated and liked, and there's nothing better than that. But anyway, Caitlin Collins tried to bite off a little more than I think she could chew on this one. Trump came prepared and talked about policy and brought receipts for his January 6th tweets, which I thought was one of the highlights of the town hall when she tried to call him out on doing nothing about the January 6th tweets and his speech. And then all of a sudden he pulls out some tweets that show, oh, he did say something to try to stifle the flow of people and any violence that may have occurred on that day. As we know, most people with a little bit of common sense know he didn't want people to march and take it over, but he did want them to protest like other people. So we can be real about that. But the crowd was ruckus and cheering for Trump at this town hall. When Collins got snarky, he called her nasty. CNN played right into the hands of Trump. CNN showed their hand on how they would treat Trump as opposed to if they had a town hall with Biden. So America needs to see this media hypocrisy, and I think that was the greatest thing of this whole thing. What do you think, Bill?
I've been really, I missed it live because I just don't watch CNN, so I wasn't even aware it was happening until after. I got to pick it up as I heard about the blowback firestorm. First of all, I gotta say one thing about this. That never would have worked with Joe Biden because he wouldn't have lasted 7 minutes without a teleprompter, and he wouldn't have made a coherent sentence in the 8th minute. So, and he would have been treated, as we like to talk about media bias. He would have been treated much differently. So yeah, Caitlin tried to lob some hard pitch at him, and he knocked it out of the park in a lot of ways. But I'm gonna premise this by telling you that I'm not going to come down as much in the corner of Donald Trump as you probably expect I'm going to, as history would suggest. Okay. But, where do we even start? We talk about the town hall itself. Do you want to talk about the reaction? You want to talk about Anderson Cooper and Joy Reid? I mean, there's so much to talk about here, I'll talk about Anderson Cooper, first of all. Apologizing for what? In 2012 and 2016, you had Donald Trump on for routine town halls, talk about him as a candidate. It wasn't considered to be a stupid move then. The Democrats, even if they hate him, they loved having it on just so they could hate him. It was great. It's like fans of Howard Stern. You watch him because you hate him, or you watch him because you love him. Either way you listen. You listen to him. So that was ridiculous. Joy Reid just went off on Anderson. I've never defended Anderson Cooper in my life, but he made a statement that I thought was interesting. He says that half the audience, we represented half the population of the country, or a good cross section, if you will, of the country. And I agree with that because let's face it, the country is divided right down the middle. You've got your Democrats who are pretty much entrenched. They're going to vote Democrat. Republicans are going to go Republican. You got your independents, which are the target audience, right? So Trump made a funny statement that he said some minds were changed. I don't know. I don't know if he changed anybody's mind, but he definitely had more of an effect than he wanted to. He galvanized the audience something fierce.
Lots of fanfare, like I said. Yeah. Yep.
Right. So I'm going to focus on just a couple of things here. I walk about back and forth on this one. The audience. I mean, I'm sorry. First of all, the statements Trump made. I wasn't real thrilled with a lot of the braggadocio, and I actually didn't really like how he treated Caitlin. I think that just for the sake of being a former president, he should just conduct himself a little more dignity. But that's who he is. Okay. But some of the statements he made, he's got to back off from using the outwardly stating that he doesn't support the results of the election. It isn't even about agreeing with that anymore. If anyone's going to consider him to be a serious candidate, he's going to have to accept the fact that he lost the election. Okay? I've told you on this show that I am more than 70% of the opinion that there was some tampering in that election, but it's done. You got to move on. You can't go back in time. I wish he would stop doing that. But Donald Trump also, he made some really controversial statements, pardoning all the January 6th people. That was, I think, a huge mistake. Calling it a beautiful day where everything was done out of love, I thought that was a little bit over the top. But here lies the thing with the audience and with my issues with Trump in general. He does have a core base of knuckleheads. All right. Donald Trump brought out the absolute worst element in this country. They were always there, but they came to the surface like cream on the top of milk when he was elected. The Southern Poverty Law Center reports, and I think they're fairly neutral in their reporting, that overall hate crimes and activities against immigrants in the name of white supremacy groups actually rose by 37% with the election of Donald Trump. Okay, he's a nationalist. He made some comments that I didn't like when he ran for office about minorities and different things. He made some disparaging comments that maybe people agree with it, but a lot of people committed some crimes. They said things like, "That's for Donald Trump. Donald Trump was right," as they were beating on some poor guy in Boston. A couple of white dudes. That stuff bothers me. He brings out the knuckleheads in people. So, I voted for the guy. I'm going to say it. I voted for him twice. The first time I kind of did it as a vote against Hillary. I did not want Hillary for president. Donald Trump bothered me as a person. And I didn't know that he was going to deliver on the things that you and I care about, like a strong military, a strong border, controlling, he didn't control spending. But, taking care of issues with trade with China, the UN. He did some stuff that nobody thought he could do. He built the wall. So I took him a lot more seriously. But, when he made that grab him by the, comment, I'm like, this guy's running for president of the presidency. Come on. And then when he called John McCain a loser because he got shot down, I had a real moral problem voting for Donald Trump. The second time, he had real accomplishments. But I've always had problems with the guy's character. So his audience, they were in full force. They were cheering at every insult. When he called her a nasty woman, they all went nuts. It's like a Jerry Springer audience in some respects, But having said that, CNN got 3.2 million viewers that night.
Exactly.
They went back down to 540,000 the next night. That's their wheelhouse right now, 540, after months of being criticized for terrible reporting, multiple firings of Don Lemon and the likes, and lack of content, poor content, credibility issues. They should be happy that they had some viewership.
Don't let them kid you. They are definitively happy. The Anderson Cooper reaction is a reaction of placation. That's it. They've got, I wrote it down here. The first thing I got off you, Bill, they got ratings. That's it. That's all they cared about. Okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But they're apologizing to their audience. So what are they apologizing for?
I told you, they're placating some people. That's all. They're trying to, take their whole audience. We gave you ratings. We gave you something. We gave you the fanfare. Okay? So those people are placated. Then you have the people that are like, how dare you? I can't believe you put him on there. Then they apologize for the placation for them. It's just all about it's the media in itself right there is playing politics with their own media, their audience.
Well, there you go. But I think it was spineless and unnecessary. But I guess to your point, I think it's just indicating how strong the Kool-Aid really is. And Anderson Cooper made a very, very interesting tweet that, unless I'm reading it wrong, it seems to kind of make our point. And I think you'll agree when I say this. He tweeted that you have every right to be outraged today and angry and never watch this network again. I didn't agree with that part of it. But do you think staying in your silo and only listen to people you agree with is going to make that person go away? Interesting that he said that, because that's how I feel about most CNN viewers.
Yeah.
You start talking about the truth, like la 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 la. I don't want to hear it. Well, yeah, you had a guy.
It's not only that. You want freedom of speeches. You want to hear voice from someone that you completely disagree with or that you don't like their opinion. That's
right. You should be able to. I hate what you just said, but I'll die for your right to say it. That's the way it's supposed to be, right?
That's the whole point. Yeah. So anyway, with the town hall, listen, they got amazing ratings. They got everything they wanted. You got their big talking heads, the Joy Reid and the Anderson Coopers out there making comments. Me, myself, I never voted for Trump, okay? I never voted in the Hillary Trump election or the Biden Trump election. It was the first time in my life, 2 elections, I did not vote. Because
did you have any moral issues with Donald Trump, or is there any other reason you didn't?
I don't like Donald Trump. I mean, I'll be very honest. I don't like Donald Trump the way he is, the way we see him like that. But but I am a result-driven person. There were results that I liked. That doesn't mean I have to like the man that did the results, but I liked the results. I don't.
So I'm more in agreement than I thought on that one. Okay, yeah,
absolutely. But Biden, I don't like him either, and this is why I couldn't vote. Hillary, I don't like her, so I refrained from voting over this last elections. Now this time, I may ironically vote for Trump. I don't know. We will see in the end. I'm going to pay attention over the next year, but we'll see. He is very brash, and that's never going to change. And if you're looking for that in a candidate, you're never going to find it in Donald Trump.
I insist, despite the fact that people continuously prove me wrong, that the office of president it should be not perfect. Infidelity and all that stuff, that's human nature. That happens, and it happened more than we ever know about. But I think that the office should be above character assassination. I think it should be above disparaging comments when there's a hot mic around, like saying, why do people from shithole nations want to come here? You just don't say those things. You shouldn't even need to be told not to. You should just know that you don't say those things. And then there are people who love the fact that he speaks his mind. I mean, in some ways he was an embarrassment to this country, and in other ways, I watched how nobody acted up at all while he was president. That was crazy.
Let's be real about Donald Trump. Okay, if Donald Trump learned this word I'm about to say, very simply, he would be an amazing politician. It's called tact. Okay, just say what you want, but have some tact in saying it. Because let's be real, if he delivered some of those things a little more tactfully, they would resonate better with many, many more people. Because most people feel that way. They do. Most people do. But anyway, good subject again. We'll be laughing about the
one more thing on that, if you don't mind. One more thing. Let's talk about the reaction nationally. Okay, the DNC has already announced they're planning an aggressive rapid response after Donald Trump's town hall, and so they're setting up an in-person war room to fact check everything, and it's going to be the most aggressive posture to date in responding to any GOP contenders. And the quote was, Donald Trump right now is the front runner for the nomination. No matter what happens, the Republican primary is shaping up around who can be the most MAGA. Our goal is that people don't forget who Donald Trump is, don't forget how extreme the MAGA agenda is, and don't forget how beholden the Republican Party is to him as well. So they're already scared of this guy.
Oh, of course. Well, everybody in the establishment is petrified of them, but they use keywords. Keywords and branding are all what the Democrats are about. They are better than all politicians at it, and it's throwing in that one word in there, the word extreme. I would love for them to, instead of just throw the word extreme in there, lay out what you feel is extreme about his agenda, because I don't feel there's anything extreme.
Specifics don't have any place in this conversation.
Right. Well, and I'm a guy that's not a fan of Donald Trump, and I'm going to tell you, I don't see extreme. I just see a guy that's very brash, and he's a locker room talk type of guy, and you don't need that when you're at the highest office in the world, pretty much. But subject again, I'm sure this topic's going to come up because, yes, like you said, it resonated throughout the world what happened with Donald Trump and CNN. But the next one's kind of a little historical thing. This is the We Are Marshall podcast. Hit like, share, and smash that subscribe button so we can continue to grow content for you and provide you some good membership only information, and then go check out our sponsor, MateConnector.com. They are located at www.mateconnector.com, a large dating site for an inexpensive price. Now, the next one we're going to get into, Bill, is the anniversary of Congress's war on Mexico. I can let you start this one if you want, or I can just give my brief history of what I've got here.
You know what? Let me start this one.
Go for it.
I thought it was interesting. I try to remember every day, part of my ritual, to look at this day in history, and I just thought it was interesting that Mexico, by mere virtue of a border, a hotly contentious border, and one of this in the news everywhere, it happened to pop up on the timeline to look at that. And when it said that the Congress declares war on Mexico, I decided to go back and look a little more at that, because I haven't seen this since ninth grade history class, so which means I don't remember any of it. So the nuts and bolts of it is that 1846, the U.S. Congress declared war on Mexico. James K. Polk was president, and they were in a dispute over Texas. Part of that dispute was whether the Rio Grande was the actual border. So under the threat of war by Mexico, the United States refrained from annexing Texas from Mexico after the latter won independence from Mexico in 1836. John Tyler restarted the negotiations with the Republic of Texas. It's funny just hearing these terms now, Republic of Texas, culminating with a treaty of annexation. It was defeated in the Senate because it would upset the slave state, free state balance between North and South, and enrich the war with Mexico, which had broken off all relations with the United States. But shortly after leaving office, Tyler managed to get the resolution passed, and Texas was admitted to the Union on December 29th. So Mexico did not declare war on us after all, but the relations remained tense over border disputes, as I mentioned, about the Rio Grande. And we sought some boundary readjustments. In return, we made an offer to purchase California and New Mexico. I'm all for New Mexico, but they can have California back as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they pretty much own it anyway. They all live
exactly.
There. But yeah, I looked into this too. Not too much fanfare around something like this, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not a hot, sexy topic, no.
But May 13th, 1846, Congress voted overwhelmingly to approve a declaration of war against our southern neighbor, Mexico, sought by like you said, President James Polk. By the war's end in 1848, Mexico had lost nearly half its territory under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The Rio Grande became the southern boundary of Texas, and Mexico seceded California and New Mexico to the United States. In return, the U.S. paid Mexico a mere $15 million then, but as of today, it would be about $373 million.
Yeah.
So even if you think about it, that's still an amazing bargain for that amount, for that property that we got from them.
Yeah. That's about what California pays a day for illegal immigrants right now.
Well, I was just gonna say we got $373 million, but isn't it like $60 billion a year we pay for illegal immigration? So let's look at that. We invested $373 million to cost us $60 billion. I guess that was a really bad investment.
That's deficit spending right there, right?
Yeah, that's not like buying the Patriots and having them worth $7 billion years later.
Right. So I guess to make an inappropriate, unethical aside, I say Mexico's getting us back now. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, they're like, you gave us $373 million, but we're going to get you back. Exactly.
Yeah, we're going to give you every adult male between 18 and 43. How do you like that?
I know, it's so funny. You got to look at it like the irony of how things turned around from then.
That's why it caught my eye, my friend.
Good little topic for us to see that our investment was not that well timed or well read. So anyway, We'll move on to this next subject that we have here. That's another thing that's in the news big time right now. We just want to remind you, this is the We Are Marshall podcast. I'm Stephen Marshall. That's Bill McIntyre. Hit that like, share, and smash that subscribe button, and go to our sponsor, MateConnector.com. The next one, I just felt like this was a question. When I watch the news, Bill, or I read
Yep.
anything, it's a very, and to me, and it's my question, so of course I'm going to say to me, it's a great question. But to me,
Yep.
it's something that's not being asked, so I feel it's very pivotal, especially when the blame finger is being pointed all over the place on this subject. And it is, where is Jordan Neely's family? Okay?
Okay.
Representatives for Neely's family responded Monday saying Penny, who's the Marine that chokehold
Mm-hmm.
Neely, had no regard for Neely's life. Well, why was Neely homeless and not getting treatment? Why were
Yep.
his family members letting this happen to him? They know him best, not strangers on the subway. So my real thing is that we need to focus on, again, when I look at roots, okay, I know that Kamala Harris is the root expert. She looks for the root reason for everything. So my root reason here is, what is going on with Jordan Neely's family, okay? Isn't the family responsible for all of us, our families in some way? Don't they know us the best? Shouldn't they know when we should be in a hospital or get mental health, or that they should warn someone that I could be dangerous, or if we're out on the street and we're not being able to survive and we're getting hungry and we can't get any food and that mental health is just creeping in even more? Shouldn't our family be the ones to step in? Well, they're out there all outraged and ready to sue the city, the state, and all this. But where were they when all this came to a crescendo of Jordan Neely threatening people on the subway and then him in an unfortunate death having to die, Bill? So, again, where was Jordan Neely's family?
Well, I don't know what you came up with, but I spent a lot more time than I wanted to trying to find answers to this today. Okay. And I'm sure I didn't come up with anything you didn't already, but here's what I found so far. His mother was murdered in 2007 by his stepfather, who is now in jail for the murder.
Yep.
They listed Jordan's mental condition as depression and PTSD, largely untreated, and so he had a history of other behaviors, but they failed to mention that. His aunt and father, who are in the news, the father abandoned him when he was a baby. Okay, never stuck around for the first diaper, from what I understand. For whatever reason, maybe the mother didn't want him around. I don't know the story there, but all they really wanted to release about him was that he was with Jordan for a very short while. They didn't get along, and that partnership moved on. It was about the age of 10 that Jordan went into the foster care system. And I'm sorry, back to the aunt. Very little on the aunt. The aunt that posed with the lawyer, the Al Sharpton wannabe. He's in the Al Sharpton School of Loud Public Speaking, apparently. Because if you're a New York, civil rights attorney, you have to speak loud and you have to rhyme everything. It's the law.
You have to have that preacher character, that preacher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which affects my ability to rhyme shit. That's Jesse Jackson's whole quote.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I'm going to hell for that one. But the grandparents were not part of the picture. He moved in with them briefly, and basically the grandmother said to the State Department, to the State for Services, he will not listen to me or his grandfather. And he later went on in 2010 to threaten to kill his grandfather. So the foster care system gave him a place to live for a while, but he was booted out at 21. There's not a lot about how much time that Mr. Neely spent in the system, in the mental health system, but he was basically well known for being a street performer who largely lived on tips and a subway card, which ended up being, unfortunately, the end of him. So yeah, where is the family? I hate to say it, but my lack of a filter. Sometimes people who weren't there tend to show up when the cameras do.
That's right there. Thank you. That's the whole
right,
point. I'm trying
going to hell for that. Yeah.
You're not. You're stating what actually happened here, the facts, and the bottom line. That's what I'm getting at. You're so outraged and in the media now yelling about his death, but where were you when he was crying out and needed help?
Right.
You're the people that know is what's wrong with this person. You're the people that are supposed to love this person. You're the people that just said, you couldn't get him to listen to you, but you expected him to listen to people that he doesn't even know on the outside.
Right.
I mean, it's a bad situation. No one should die like that. Okay, we both agree on that, but it's all unfortunate. But in the end, I am going to blame it on the family. I am going.
Well, we're not talking about the situation itself. I'm sure we will again at some point, because that's obviously another narrative. But I love the fact you brought this question up, and I was hoping I could find more on it. But here you have two people, and there's another aunt also in the picture who organized a GoFundMe for him. Exactly. It's raised $132,000 something so far for him. Okay, and the mayor of New York, as a nice. I mean, I'm sure the governor of New York released a $1 billion mental health program this week. At least she didn't hide it. She said it was stimulated by the Neely situation, which may move on. But see, I want to take your question one step further. Yes, okay. I don't want to use the word blame the family, but we know for a fact there's a father and two aunts that could have done something to help this young man. Okay, homeless. Now, on the subway, he was supposedly claimed that he was homeless, hungry, and thirsty. While accounts vary, that seems to be the case, right? Okay, so where is the system? Where is any kind of services to help this man out? If he was an immigrant, he would have it, okay? Where's the healthcare system? Where's the mental health services? Do they not have anything in place for people who have a history of violent mental behavior? See, the narrative isn't going to play out in this case about it being an overreaction on Penny's part, because this guy had an active warrant out for him on a violent assault in 2017 or 2019.
The only problem with that I will defend some of the statements that I've heard out there. Okay, yeah. No one knew he had that warrant out for him when that transpired, you know?
Right.
Like Penny the Marine did not know that. I'll give him that. But when you're in today's climate, this is where people got to take a step back. Yeah, they did not know that he was a harmful person like that. But we're in a climate where we're afraid constantly, especially in crowded areas, that someone might do something incredibly nefarious. So when someone acts out like that, you're best usually to react and stifle the situation and hope that no one gets harmed at all. But that's what tried to be done in this situation, and unfortunately, Mr. Neely got harmed. I mean, it's terrible.
Well, the reason I mentioned the warrant is that his behavior was clearly erratic. Okay, yeah. So his mental illness had to be apparent to other people. So even for a public safety standpoint, he could have been admitted in some way or fashion to some kind of service before this happened. Where I'm going with that.
He's on a warrant for assaulting a 67-year-old lady, and he had something on his record also for trying to kidnap a 7-year-old girl. I mean,
but you don't have to know that if somebody's acting erratically, okay? If you hear somebody, if somebody says to you, I don't care about going to jail and I don't care about dying, those are the things that somebody who's going to say who are about to do something really bad.
Yeah, no, that I agree with. What I'm saying is, with those two things on top of his mental health, he should have been in some institution getting him some help. That's all. So I'm agreeing with the fact that you're saying where were the services, what's going on that end.
I just want to be clear that I'm not suggesting that people should know that he had a warrant. Not like you wear a sign around your back that says that. But, know what we know, and knowing that he was acting dangerously, and then someone took it upon themselves to subdue what they thought was a threat. And then, you gotta love Fox News. They don't pull punches. DA concedes to the mob. that's what they call it.
Isn't that what Alvin Bragg does anyway? So I mean, Alvin Bragg loves to get his name in the news. So whatever he can do, he's going to do it. But anyway, let's brush that off. It just comes to his family. Should have been more upfront in helping rather than now stepping up to try to sue the state and whatever they want to sue. So we'll move on. This is the We Are Marshall podcast. Hit that like, smash, and subscribe. Go check out our big sponsor, MateConnector.com, an inexpensive dating website with all the features of the larger players out there, but way more inexpensive. Go check it out, www.mateconnector.com. Next thing we're going to get into, and you can lead this segment. It was something you wanted to talk about. Go with the George Santos here. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you. George Santos, congressman from New York, was indicted this week on 13 counts No surprise to anybody that this happened, because exactly 2 weeks after he was elected, his entire glass castle collapsed, if you will, around him. Some pretty serious charges. He was accused of lying about his former employment, lying about his education. The only thing he didn't do is claim false valor. Okay, but here we have a LGBTQ, forgive if I said that wrong, friendly candidate from New York who's for Donald Trump. He's a real novelty. So they did some digging on this guy after he won the election, and he was asked to step down right away. So the big picture is now, because it's a Republican, they only have a four-seat voting majority right now. Now they're going to let law and order play out, as opposed to the usual witch hunts that everybody wants to just get rid of somebody now without due process. Another common theme in this podcast, right? Due process. Actually seeing that somebody actually did.
Well, this is an easy one for them, so of course, yeah.
Yeah. But the fact is that the guy is an embarrassment to the Republicans, and if they weren't so tight for votes, he would have been gone already. The ethics committee would have just shut him down. He would have been gone. So I want to hear what your thoughts are on the indictment, and then, if you don't mind, I was just going to let's share with you a little bit of what I came up with on this guy's history, so we can have a little fun with it.
Well, the thing that I feel on this is, okay, you got a government that has half of them, which is the Democrats, crying about gun background checks. Listen, you people can't even get a background check on someone that's trying to run office with you. I mean, so
Right.
we're going to worry about you doing background checks on regular citizens to do things. I mean, this guy is a disgraced Republican congressman. Let's be real, but to me, I don't feel he's really associated with the Republicans. I think he's kind of a standalone, shameless man that's getting what he did. He did lie about his education. He lied about his job experience. He's utilized campaigns funds allegedly illegally.
Right.
This is not different than any other politician, in my opinion, just that this guy was not qualified to be the liar he was.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, if in the category of cheap jokes, is when you see he's LBGT, whatever, friendly. My first joke is that I guess he identifies as an honest politician. he clearly isn't.
Yeah.
So this is. I'm glad you brought that up about the vetting process, because one of the indictments is for insufficient or improper or inaccurate information on his application to run for office.
There you go.
I mean, so you have a guy that basically everything he ran on. He even claimed to be Jewish at one point, and he's from Brazil. Okay, that doesn't matter for anything. But I'm saying he claimed to be Jewish. Then he was caught making derogatory comments about Jews and mocking a Yiddish accent in a Yiddish accent. The guy is shameless. I think he's like that. Leonardo DiCaprio character in Catch Me If You Can. Just any kind of personality you can put on to win votes and get adoration. But so I think it's interesting how the GOP is dug in and letting it play out. I had to get that out, of course. So they're going to see where it goes, but we know where it's going to go. Okay, he's going to get indicted. He's going to be forced to step down, which is going to be a problem for the Republicans. But okay, do we want an honest, or at least the appearance of an honest congressman? Congress, I don't know, but it's a pretty much foregone conclusion that he's going to be convicted, because the evidence is overwhelming against him. Unemployment issues, lying to Congress about his. So it's so bad that even Wikipedia doesn't waste any time going into his profile about what a crook this guy is. It doesn't spend more than a half a paragraph about what his actual title is, but they talk about the fact that he confessed to having.
Well, it looks like we're having a little technical difficulty here. Just want to look at the subject that we're discussing still. It's on George Santos. And yep, he is a disgraced congressman, getting himself in all kinds of trouble, even prior to getting in, well, right when he got voted into office. And we don't know what pretty much is going to transpire with this. Bill seems to think it's going to really hurt the Republicans. In my opinion, like I said, I don't feel that he's really associated with the Republicans and anything terrible going on like that. So what we're going to do is look at to see what will happen with him, and then we will go and see how
Sorry about
George
that.
continues to defend
I'm
himself
back.
in the situation. Okay. Yeah, we just saw that you had a little technical difficulty, so I'm just
Yeah.
coming on, George. So what we're going to do is we'll finish with George Santos. We can see that the guy, like I was saying, it's gonna play out, and we don't know what will happen with him. But as I
Yeah.
was telling them, Bill, I don't feel it's going to be that much of a dent in the Republicans. Like I think this guy kind of stands on his own, and people aren't party associating him with, but they will try to use it the best they can. But I bet you we'll see a better candidate in there for us to not worry too much about that one.
Well, haven't we talked about a couple of times already about fact checking and how with this day and age of information available everywhere, how he even thought he was going to pull this off. He said he worked for Goldman Sachs when he clearly didn't, that he went to Baruch College and he clearly didn't. I mean, these are things that an amateur reporter can find out in 5 seconds. Now, my point is that I wish he had just stepped down with honor when they first discovered this. I know that's really a lofty expectation of me, and I can't even believe as I'm saying it, those words came out of my mouth. But, you know what's going to happen here, okay? You can see what's going to happen. He had to know that 2 weeks into this, that this is going to be a problem. And then he denies it. This is not opinion. These are all facts. They found no evidence of anything he says he did was correct. But the truth will prevail. Ugh.
But that's where I'm falling. That's why I feel this won't hurt the Republicans, because they asked him to step down right away. The Democrats have been on him. So both sides have been saying to this guy, you need to just go away. So I don't think it's going to be any party affiliation dent. It's going to be a George Santos, you kind of suck, get out of here dent,
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move on from that fraud, and we'll see what we can do here with the next subject. This is the We Are Marshall podcast. Hit that like, share, and smash that subscribe button so Bill and I can continue building content for you folks and bring you different subjects. And going forward here, we are sponsored by MateConnector.com, a large dating website that's inexpensive. Go check it out, sign up, give it a try for a few months. Hopefully you find your significant other or get some dating experiences that are great in your life. But going forward, Bill, this is one I found today that was really concerning to me. And this is the cancer drug shortage, like many of the drugs we're seeing out there. But this is one that really is scary. I lost both my parents, as you know, to cancer. So cancer, that phrase they use, I truly believe cancer sucks. And you get certain things like this that just make it suck all the more. But according to the Food and Drug Administration, there are 4 cancer drugs in shortage. Pluvicto for advanced prostate cancer, BCG, a drug for bladder cancer, and methotrexate and cisplatin, 2 common chemotherapy drugs. A 5th drug, fluorouracil, is also in shortage, according to the American Society of Health System Pharmacists, a group that tracks nationwide drug shortages. A report published in March by the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs found that new drug shortages in the U.S. increased by nearly 30% from 2021 to 2022. Okay, they don't really lay specificity out there except for one variable. But to me, if you really look at that, 2021 to 2022, that's probably the end of the supply chain stuff really starting to hit this country after the pandemic. So that's an after effect of the pandemic, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's a fact, but that makes sense. So
It's definitely a factor.
Absolutely. And the medications included prescription drugs and children's cold and flu medicine, as well as medications used to treat cancer, according to the report. And, quote, there's little incentive to invest in generic manufacturing. Oftentimes, especially for these much older drugs, the margins aren't very big, Ganino said. It's almost a disincentive. So we as a country will spend ridiculous money on entitlements. Well, in my opinion, life is an entitlement. We're entitled to live, okay, in my opinion. The government should find a way to make the non-generic drugs available or cheaper to save lives, rather than worrying about things where people will not die imminently. So here we are. We're going to worry about the migration pattern of the bird with 5 feathers feathers on its head and one hanging out the right side of its body. Who cares when we have people that can't get chemotherapy drugs or prostate cancer drugs? And I'm not just talking about adults that are having issues with this. This is kids too.
Of
So if
course.
this is such a prevalent issue, again, I mock that migratory pattern of some bird, and I know it may have some importance in the scheme of our ecosystem and life, but I believe the entitlement to life is much more important, and those dollars that are spent for that should be focused on getting these drugs into the right people's hands so they can live their lives. Wouldn't you agree, Bill?
Oh, absolutely. This is troubling in so many ways. I look at the University of Utah, which pops up as one of the leading research sites for this subject. And they said there are 300 drugs, which I think you said, with an active shortage. 50 new shortages in the first 3 months of this year. Okay, so even eggs have gone back down to what they're supposed to cost again. The supply issue is over. Okay, it's supposed to be, anyways. Your observation about the lack of investment in generics, yes, without the 300, 400, 500% profit margin, it's not appealing to people. So it's not about taking care of people, it's about profits. Okay, well, yes, I know we live in a free market. I understand that. So this is disgusting. Cancer is one of those things that everybody has been affected by it. I'm doing St. Jude's 3,000 push-ups in the month of May challenge right now, just because I'm just trying to do something to raise awareness of St. Jude's and the wonderful work they're doing. And they can't do their work without these medications. These medications are specific in the dosages, okay? You cannot give a patient 20 milligrams when they require 40 because you don't have it all. If it calls for 40, you have to have the 40 on hand, on schedule, on time frames for almost all treatments and things like that. So this is disgusting. But the big picture here is they can blame it on supply chain all they want. It's more likely what you brought up, what about lack of investment, because it's not a slam dunk money wise. But I was even astonished by this number. I asked this question a while ago, I think, and I looked it up today. What do you think the average listener would tell you they believe the percentage of prescription drugs made partially or 100% in this country would be?
Well, if I have the knowledge of that, but probably the average person would.
Yeah, the average person. What would they think?
They would probably say that made in this country would probably say more than 60%, which I know that's not even close to the number.
Yeah, 20.
Yeah.
80% of drugs come from China and India, okay? Yeah. Well, let's go back to Donald Trump again, okay? Because he said this in 2016. You cannot rely on foreign countries, not just for oil tankers to show up regularly or on time. No, you need to make sure that your supply chains are always something you can control, all right? Absolutely. Well, China and India, one of which has an active agenda to disrupt our very fabric of our society. Don't want to be too controversial there, YouTube. But having said that, 80% were dependent upon other countries for our medications. So here it is. You know, he said, "Drill, baby, drill" in the town hall, right? Well, I say, buy American, man. Bring industry back to this country. I don't care if the American worker doesn't work for 68 cents a day in a bottle of Yoo-Hoo, okay? We need to get people making products here. We have access to them and taking care of Americans. I know that's an unpopular opinion. Take care of Americans.
It shouldn't be. That's why that MAGA statement alone, there's nothing wrong with saying "Make America Great Again" or "Invest in America." But the fact that they're making it a big issue, that it's a big uproar and making it like MAGA is this awful extremist group is terrible when they just want to focus on America first, okay? But what I'm getting at with this subject, Bill, is we spend all this money on ridiculous things and maybe some entitlements that aren't ridiculous, but these entitlement programs are, they're fraught with fraud, okay? So rather than that, why don't we take that money? I'm not a big entitlement person, and I'm not a big person for government handouts. But if there's a way to subsidize those even expensive drugs to get them in the hands of these people right now, that's something I would get behind.
Yeah. So how do you do it?
We're not in there to be able to figure that out. But my opinion is, yep, some of that money you're using for these entitlements, use it for the people that to pay these non-generic companies to give their product for the price of the generic by subsidizing them through the government. Yeah,
if we can subsidize farmers not to grow wheat, we can subsidize this.
There's ways to subsidize it anyway.
Absolutely.
What you're really subsidizing is someone's ability to have a life. And that's what we should be more focused on above everything in this country, is people being able to live.
Listen, there's no shortage of Viagra and Cialis. There's no shortage of silicone breast implants. And Medicare raised its rates by like 18% a couple of years ago because of a new Alzheimer's drug. So everybody on Medicare had to pay for that drug. It's so expensive, okay?
Right.
So, basically in 20 years, some of these people are going to have, stiffies and fake boobs and not going to remember anything. But, that's okay. There's never a shortage of that stuff. But when it comes down to actually life-saving stuff, it doesn't seem to have quite the priority. Priorities skewed.
Maybe these are some priorities that you and I will focus on this podcast to get it out to the people down the road. These are some things to think about. You and I.
Absolutely.
But anyway,
let's do it.
With that's a terrible story. As you can see, we're passionate about many things. So we'll probably dive right into some of these subjects. There's going to be some longer episodes too that Bill and I would have, because we could easily talk on and on about many of these subjects, and especially when we bring in some people through a chat or email or ways to converse with us, that's going to make it exceptionally more specific and long for us to bring you info. But anyway, let's move on. Again, this is the We Are Marshall podcast. I'm Stephen Marshall. That's Bill McIntyre. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and mosey on over to mateconnector.com to find your next mate, whether it be a heterosexual,
I'm going to turn my light on.
Sexual date, whatever you're looking for at mateconnector.com. Now, the next subject we're going to get into is what we're telecasting for today, and that today is Mother's Day, so we're going to talk a little bit about the history of Mother's Day, and I got a little long-winded history I'll extrapolate here before I let Bill get into his little
go for it
diatribe on his Mother's Day. So for me,
diatribe.
So for me, I've got celebrations of mothers and motherhood can be traced back to the ancient Greeks and the Romans, who held festivals in honor of the mother goddesses of Rhea and Cybele. But the clearest modern precedent for Mother's Day is the early Christian festival known as Mothering Sunday. The official Mother's Day holiday arose in the 1900s as a result of the efforts of Anna Jarvis, daughter of Anne Reeves Jarvis. Following her mother's 1905 death, Anna Jarvis conceived on Mother's Day as a way of honoring the sacrifices mothers made for their children. At times, Mother's Day was also been a date for launching political or feminist causes. In 1968, Coretta Scott King, wife of Martin Luther King Jr., used Mother's Day to host a march in support of underprivileged women and children. In the 1970s, women's groups also used the holiday as a time to highlight the need for equal rights and access to childcare. So, Mother's Day to me is a soft, tough spot. My mom's no longer with us, and I miss her dearly. I think all of us should take a day like today and really, embrace their mom, spend some time with them, because as we know, life is fleeting. Bill and I have kids. We're witnessing it as dads through our lives and what's going on with us. But our moms, they were pivotal in our lives, and everybody should, respect their mom and, pay homage to them today, but not just today, every day. Because mom didn't just take one day for you and was like, hey, I'm going to make this day about you and be nice. No, your mom was there for you every day, doing what she could for you every day, teaching you in ways that you don't look back until you're probably Bill's and my age and go, my mother taught me something there that I didn't even really know what happened. But wish all the moms a happy Mother's Day, and let's hear what Bill has to say on this subject of Mother's Day.
Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge how I'm sure it's tough for you today because you lost your mom. I've heard you speak of her often and passionately. I know that you loved her very, very much, and I personally can't relate to that. I still have my mom. She's 78. She's amazing. She's in Florida with her boyfriend, and she's traversing the state, visiting his friends, and it's amazing. She's something else. She's the Energizer Bunny. She cracks me up. She's healthier than I am. but yeah, happy Mother's Day to anybody watching right now. Mother's Day has come a long way in that. I think as we get older, we appreciate it more. But I think that we're seeing that as times get tougher, how hard it is for our mothers to just do what they do for us, and how nothing's going to love you more than your mother ever. Okay, this is all there is to it. And I know it's cliche to say every day is your Mother's Day, but it isn't. It is important that you take that special day and say, "Hey, Mom, thanks for everything that you do and all the times that you were right and all those." And I lost my father. Every Father's Day, I go to my father's grave and I tell him everything he was right about. So because that's just he was. So it's a special day, and it didn't need to be invented, so to speak. As Steve touched on, people long ago recognized the importance of acknowledging their mothers and the hard work they do. In this day and age, women have a different fate than, of course, they did. They're much more, much less oppressed. They're able to do more things. They're much more. I hate this word, but there's much more equality or even playing field on things now. And one thing that I've always gotten a kick out of is how much women don't want to be called housewives. They say homemakers. Is there any more noble job than raising your children and being able to do so at home and do that? But that's not a subject for another day. So, women, don't be encouraged to take a job because you feel you have to work. If you want to stay home and raise your kids, be proud of that. So as far as the history is concerned, the one thing I want to touch on today is that the woman who really created it, if you will, and really got it out there, Anna Reeves Jarvis, she was an abolitionist and a suffragette, and she was a big creator of Mother's Day work clubs to help women learn basic homemaking skills in childcare. Julia Ward Howe also was an abolitionist suffragette. In 1870, she did a call to action for mothers to promote world peace, and it was called Mother's Peace Day. It was going to be every June 2nd. So the temperance movement was a big part of this, but Anna Jarvis actually was, her daughter took it one step further. Of the work of her mother, she did not have children and was never married, but she found that it was still a big thing. And she actually gained financial backing from a Philadelphia department store named John Wanamaker in 1908, and they had an actual Mother's Day celebration at a Methodist church. Because one of the earlier traditions was a church gathering, whatever your local church was, in which mothers were particularly honored that day. So it became a retail thing, and they did a letter writing campaign after the success of that one, and lobbied the White House as well. And Woodrow Wilson finally in 1914 officially established it as a holiday. And the real point I want to make now is that not many years after that, she tried to eliminate it because of the commercialization of Mother's Day. She saw what we all know. We've heard the words Hallmark holiday and all that. Valentine's Day is a Hallmark holiday. Mother's Day is a day of genuine gestures, but those gestures include store-bought cards and flowers and all those things. And she saw it coming. The writing was on the wall on that one. She saw how commercialization ruins everything. So don't let it ruin anybody out there's Mother's Day. Love you for what you do. Keep on doing the good work. You're raising the future. So good on you, all of you. That's all I got to say about that.
And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, if any of you are listening. But we'll move on. This is the We Are Marshall podcast. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Go check out our big sponsor, MateConnector.com, at www.mateconnector.com. It's a large dating website that's very inexpensive, has all the features of the other dating sites, just at a much, much more inexpensive price. And this next subject to me is kind of funny because we talk about news networks, Bill and I, a lot. And Fox News just got sued in a Dominion lawsuit and lost an exorbitant amount of money. Okay, they are at fault. What they did, in my opinion, was wrong. Shouldn't have been handled that way. But then we have CNN. CNN, to me, is the antithesis of what Fox is, okay? So they're polar opposites. But CNN, in my opinion, has done more damage to the American people media-wise than, say, Fox over that stupid story. And they're getting hit. And CNN hasn't really paid for anything other than to lose some anchors. That's about the worst they have. And yeah, they've lost ratings, but they haven't really been hit monetarily as far as I've seen yet, because they still got those sponsors, even though their ratings are low. But what we're going to look at here is, for a long time, the left media decried what we call cancel culture as a made-up thing. Then CNN actually defined cancel culture for us all. Cancel culture, the online trend of calling out people, celebrities, brands, and organizations, rightly or wrongly, they say, for perceived social indiscretions or offensive behaviors, has become a polarizing topic of debate. So they say cancel culture doesn't exist, yet they lay out this elaborate and honestly very good definition of what cancel culture is. To some, it's an important means of social justice and holding powerful figures to account. But to others, it's often misused and misdirected and has become a form of mob rule. Now, what I'm reading you are quotes from CNN when CNN said this doesn't exist, and they say that this does not happen. Yet they're saying it happens. This is the problem I have with the left media. They will tell you that the sky is red up above you, yet you're looking behind them, and it's clear as blue. But one country wants to put an end to the cancel culture, deeply contested online phenomena, by introducing what legal experts and observers say would be the world's first law against cancel culture, raising alarms among rights activists who fear that such legal powers could be used to stifle free speech. That's pretty ironic, because this cancel culture stifles free speech. So the fact that they're saying this, it's like you're saying on one hand you're trying to stop something so it doesn't stifle free speech, but you stifle free speech. So over the past year, Singapore's government has been looking at ways to deal with cancel culture. Okay, I think it's wonderful when someone's now looking at this phenomena and seeing how invasive it is in many societies, not just American society. But to say it's that you're trying to do it because it's stifling free speech, well, you're stifling it on both ends. The bottom line is no one should get canceled for their beliefs. This is a country that we loved people coming here because they had different beliefs, different cultures, different nationalities, diversity, variety. That's what we love about this country. So that's my diatribe on that. But I just think it's funny that CNN is now complaining that cancel culture is a bad thing, when in actuality, they're the grandfather, father, or godfather of cancel culture. Go ahead, Bill.
Good. You teed that one up, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay. We live in a country where people don't recognize that the group Antifa, which is short for anti-fascism, is actually the textbook definition of fascism. Okay. If they're out there, if they don't like what you have to say, they want to hit you in the head with a baseball bat and pour urine on you. Okay. That's where we're at. Okay. So that's the irony of it. There's an old expression, I don't know, maybe it's an expression or maybe an old doctrine that states that a difference between a conservative and a liberal is if you're a conservative, you don't like something, you don't do it. Yeah, but if you're a liberal, you don't like something, then you make sure that nobody else can do it.
Right on.
Okay. Now, this is completely contrary to the very thing this entire country stands for. Said it earlier. I may not like what you just said, but I'll die for your right to say it. Because Correct. The day that you can't say what you want to say is a sad day. Now, obviously, with the exception of yelling fire in a crowded movie theater, you can say almost anything you want in this country. And that's something that other countries really don't have the luxury of. But cancel culture it's weaponized. People basically threaten people with canceling them if they don't like what they have to say. In politics, if there's a viewpoint that might destroy your narrative, you're threatened with anything from your job to your life. If you come out and say it, the press is as guilty of that as anybody, and the press is also as vulnerable to that as anybody. You know, how many movies have you seen where some mobster or someone approaches not trying to make stereotypes to anybody, approaches an editor of a newspaper late at night and puts a gun to his head, you publish a story tomorrow and your brain's going to be all over it, that kind of thing, okay? The media is susceptible to it as well. But CNN has been promoting it forever. It isn't enough if they disagree with something that happened, but they have to go out there and launch an entire smear campaign against it. And then they attack the people who say it and their credibility. So, people are harmed in this process. Their reputation sometimes is all someone has. And when you go after that, you ruin them. They're canceling them. It's like Yelpers. When they gave people the result, the ability to evaluate restaurants, all of a sudden they took as a power trip and said, give me a free dessert or I'm going to give you a bad review. It's insane. But it doesn't stop. It goes back. People are trying to cancel John Wayne because of a comment he made in an interview on Playboy in 1970. Sean Connery made a comment about how it's okay to give a woman a little slap once in a while. I think you said a little slap, in my best Sean Connery imitation. And people, they lost their minds. Well, you're losing your mind over a guy who's dead. Okay, yeah, it was different times. Never okay to hit a woman. But yeah, movies back then, oh, calm down. I mean, I don't know. They did that. And it's regrettable, but it's not something to cancel. But statues, okay, being torn down because history is offensive. They're going to cancel it. No, statues are history. If you either learn from it.
Let me interject real quick
Please.
on that. All right, because it's funny you bring that up. Yeah. Let's erase history, okay? We'll speak it from a left side. Let's erase history because it's offensive to us. But then they bring CRT in and we say, we don't want that because it's offensive to us. And they say, too bad. So basically what you're getting at, Bill, to just be more succinct about it, is that if it's their way, they can say it. If it's our way or a different way, they don't want to say it. But continue, sir.
Are you saying I'm not succinct?
No, I'm just saying that
I'm kidding with you.
Across completely.
I'm kidding with you. No, I'm probably going off on the tail because it's such a hot topic because it's about the offense thing also. It's about, I'm offended by that, so I want it to go away. No, the reason people don't have an edge today, the reason there's a difference between my generation, our generation, and the other generation is that we were forced to accept what happened to us. We didn't have the luxury of saying, hey, no fair to teachers and parents and all that stuff. If we were called a bad name, we had to deal with it. We had to be faced with an opinion we didn't like, we had to deal with it. Now it's like anybody who says something you don't agree with, they just try to eliminate it completely, which, like I said, it's totally against everything we stand for. And it's just dangerous. It's just dangerous. So, for CNN to acknowledge it, it's pretty ironic. It absolutely is that because they actually invented it.
But here's a subject, that segues into this, that being you and I being dads, okay? I want to have maybe even a 2-hour discussion someday about you and I, because we're our own worst enemies, we as parents. Okay, we're the ones that are destroying the society, ironically, because this is what's going on. What do we do as parents, okay? We want to take our children and make sure they don't experience any of the hardships we did, right? We want to make it easier for them. That's the worst formula in the history of any planet, civilization, anything. Because what are we doing? We're taking away all the adversity in the way of our children and not giving them the opportunity to deal with it and learn and grow like we did to become as strong as we did and be able to deal with that adversity. We're taking away from them their superpower. We need to discuss the subject at some day because I have.
Let me make one statement about that. Short of bubble wrapping them, okay, what's so bad about what I know is your approach, I've seen you do it, and is mine, in which you simply share with your kids what you know will happen if you do certain things? What if you can save them from making a really, really life-changing mistake, okay, by doing this, saying, listen, if you do this, I mean, I know our fathers did that, and we probably didn't listen to them either, okay, but the fact is, we at least try to share what we know. I try to do it in a funny way. I used to make jokes about white vans and getting in to make sure there's candy and all that. But my kids, they said, oh, Dad, you're sick. But they got the idea. If a white van pulls up, don't get in it, So I'm my own worst enemy. Absolutely. But I tried, and I don't want to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure that I just tried to share what I know will save them some aggravation, or be prepared for something. Like, you're going to have a boss yell at you. Don't leave over it. Just put up with it, or don't put up with it, whatever. But like, there's so many different examples. But yeah, to your point, yeah, we probably are partially complicit in raising the biggest generation of pussies ever. I mean, no question about it.
We are not partially. We got to be honest. We are a big, huge factor.
Well, come on. Helicopter parents. There's a lot worse than us, okay?
I know, but I'm not saying us directly. I'm talking our generation and as a totality, But if you look like what you just said about you joking around with the van, like I have this thing I do with Charlie that I think's fantastic. And it's, she's a girl. There's a lot of drama for girls in school. She's 12, so there's a lot of drama at that age. So when someone says something like, yeah, Charlie, you don't look good today, or you're ugly, I always tell you, if someone says you say just joking with you, or they're giving you a hard time, making fun of you, they say you're ugly, just turn to them and say, why, thank you. Because then they don't know what to say after that.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you destroy someone that's doing that to you. And she does it, not all the time, but it seems to work. But these little...
Don't give them the desired result, right?
Exactly. These little quips are what I'm talking about, that maybe we need to talk about, that other parents would like to talk about too, and they just don't. But you and I definitely would be candid and do it. But anyway,
Absolutely.
Let's move on to the final subject. We usually end the podcast with a feel-good subject. So I got one today that's pretty good towards a couple of things: climate control, sustainable housing, poverty. That's all a good formula for a good feel-good story. So it's the We Are Marshall podcast. Hit that like, share, and subscribe, and go check out our sponsor, MakeConnected.com. This last subject is this Georgia innovator is transforming dilapidated buildings into affordable housing. How often do you drive around all the time and see buildings just sitting there doing nothing, looking terrible? Well, this gentleman has found an idea that is good for everybody, in my opinion. There's no building that can be scary for Margie Stagmeyer. Show her a ramshackle apartment complex, and she sees the opportunity to provide hundreds of families with affordable housing. This Georgia resident and author of the new book, Blighted, is an affordable housing innovator. Okay, Blighted, who has taken several rundown properties in the Atlanta area and turned them into safe places to live with fair rents. She launched her own nonprofit called Star C, which offers after-school programs at the apartments and partners with local schools, health clinics, and other organizations for residents. Affordable housing provides stability, influences a person's finances, education, and health. And Stagmeyer told The Week it also allows families to stay in place and form independent community relationships and trust to thrive. Quote, our tenants have the consistency to meet their neighbors, network to find jobs, select careers, feel pride and happiness in their housing environment, no matter their income, she said, rather than having to uproot and move every year and chase affordability. Now, we've got some issues going on out there right now in our country with homelessness, and they are now taking down a homeless city in Phoenix that's about a mile long, which is encompasses about 900 people. That's a lot of people. And they are looking for solutions on what to do. Well, I think the story I just dictated to you is a huge solution. I think this woman's on to something. And it wasn't only just that she's providing affordable housing, the programs that she's getting offered within these affordable housings to help people get off the street, prevent crime, get out of poverty, educate themselves, a number of things. This is what this country is all about, and this is the story that I'd love to end the podcast with. How about you, Bill?
Well, I didn't have the luxury of doing much research on this. This is the first I've heard about this. But it sounds amazing. Yeah, you can go through almost any town and you see two things. You see 10 cities, which is just a blight on America, because not only is it's sad, obviously. It's terrible to see. And then superficially and unfortunately, it has impact on the community as well, as far as tourism and everything else. Okay. There are so many buildings out there that are just sitting there. Okay, they talked about using cruise ships in the harbor, as residence for people, um, and I believe that's still something that's in the works. But the ability to recognize that existing structures like schools and shopping malls and all that should be doing something with that land. I've always thought it was a cost issue. I know that you know what it costs to take a house that might have black mold or rot or whatever and make it into a livable, inhabitable place is formidable. But it sounds like they have a handle on that. I think this is an amazing topic because there's nothing bad about it. I don't know how they're going to be able to really manage what I could imagine would be prohibitive, cost as opposed to just knocking something down and rebuilding it or building it again. But yeah, there's nothing bad about that story. It's a great human interest story, and I wish them all the luck. And I hope we can find some way at some point in this podcast to find a way to raise money for them.
Yep, and that's why we're doing this podcast, Bill, because we have a passion for a lot of subjects, and at some point, yeah, we're going to be able to open up the floodgates to raising some money and helping some organizations. Because in my opinion, there's nothing better than waking up every day and finding a way to change someone's life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the podcast for today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, it was a pleasure speaking with you, Bill, as usual. This is the
Pleasure's all mine, my friend.
Podcast. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and go check out our sponsors so they can continue to pay us and enable this thing to keep growing. That's MateConnect.com, a large, inexpensive dating site. Go check it out and see what you can find for yourself. So we're out of here. We'll be back to see you soon, and you have a good night. I'll talk to you soon, Bill.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Got it, bud.